What's up? Happy Friday afternoon. I'm doing some WebNative coding this afternoon, so welcome to Coding with Jess, where you get to code along with me while I build a thing. I don't know why I'm still using that introduction uh, several years after doing this, but hey, gotta have some kind of intro, right? So, welcome to some Friday afternoon coding that I'm doing, and I am building a little WebNative app. Well, what is WebNative, you might ask? So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so I'm building a little app called Fumbler. Well, actually, it's called Mumbler. I just changed the name, but I haven't merged the pull request from master. We'll get to that in a second. So this little application is a blogging app, like light blogging app, but decentralized. So when you type a post in here, some post I want everyone to read, and you type in some Markdown down here, some paragraph, bullet point, big important heading, some other text. And you type this stuff down here and you hit publish right here. It will then save the file to the IPFS through a library called WebNative. What's IPFS? IPFS is the Interplanetary File System. It's basically storage on other people's computers. It's this giant peer-to-peer file sharing network where files get replicated across that network. And so you can save to that through a wrapper called WebNative. WebNative is a library, a nice little JavaScript library that wraps IPFS and provides a lot of conveniences, including authentication, encryption, and so really importantly, it also creates a file system like structure around it. So you have these nice little file system type things. So the WebNative is made by a company called Fission that I now work for, and I have been trying to build stuff with their tooling and learning about the rough edges as I go. So the WebNative SDK, you can kind of check out these docs here for learning more about WebNative. And right now I'm launching you into this project kind of in the middle because I'd run into some stuff that I thought was kind of interesting, and I thought it'd be best if I ran into it while talking out loud about it. So here we go. We're going to talk out loud about all the things that I'm running into. So as I mentioned, when I hit the publish button, this should publish. Right now, this app, just to give you a real quick walkthrough of the files and what we're looking at here, this is a super duper simple application. So there is our index.html file, which basically formats this. There is a CSS file, which makes this look not awful. And then there is a single TypeScript file, which as you can see right now is 70 lines. I'm going to go through these lines one by one to kind of walk you through them. But right now I'm doing all of my coding with no front-end framework and with with everything in a single TypeScript file. One thing you should know is that I am not a TypeScript expert. So at times on this live stream, you'll probably see me fumbling through different things and stubbing my toe on things and flailing with types at things to try to get things to actually compile. So my goal here is to work with Fission and the WebNative library and learn about building decentralized applications. But at the same time, I also want to do it. I want to learn TypeScript, and so I'm kind of picking that as the thing I'm going to learn. Eventually, I'll probably port this application to something like Svelte, but right now it's a very, very simple single HTML file, single CSS file, and single JavaScript file in the form of TypeScript. I am using Vite, which under the covers uses Rollup to build this site and present it. I've learned a lot about bundlers and such this week, but that's the only thing that makes this even moderately interesting or intriguing. And so all of the challenge here comes from our friend, this WebNative library, 410.6 kilobytes of unzipped of JavaScript that wraps IPFS and provides all sorts of other niceness. But right now, it is not being nice to me, and I am a little frustrated. So let's talk about what is going on and what is not going on. All right, so to walk you through the code that is already in this TypeScript file and to kind of refresh my own memory. When your application loads when your web native application loads, you need to connect to basically ask for permission to access the file system on behalf of the user. So this is kind of like logging in, but there's some crazy stuff happening with a private public key pair. I won't go through all the details around that right now, because what you need to know is that we are trying to get permissions to write some files on behalf of the user to their data directory in IPFS. This would be like if your Web 2 application, your like whatever application you're working on, was backed by Dropbox, and all the files that you're trying to store are in Dropbox, right? And so you don't actually have access to your own file system. It's not the file system of the company. It's not the file system of the local machine. It is a file system that belongs to a third-party service, Dropbox. In this case, the third-party service is the interplanetary file system, and we have to get access to that. So here's our permissions. You tell it what your app's name is and who the creator is, and it does some things for you there in terms of creating folders, like app folders. And this is one of the things I'm trying to figure out about, is this thing called app path, which is I'm just trying to figure out how the freaking directories work, and it's not very clear in the docs. So then also, in addition to this app path here, you can also ask for permission within their file system in their private file system, which is like things that will be encrypted at rest, and then public file system, which I think is things that will not be encrypted and will be available to anyone to get access to. I think something I should confirm probably. So when I'm initializing web native, you'll see this await, and then also note that I'm trying to use await and top level awaits as much as possible. I'm also not an async JavaScript expert, and so I am still kind of wrestling with that mental model myself, and so you'll probably see some of that on this stream as well. Anyway, so as I'm doing an await here, and I'm setting up, or I'm initializing web native, the library, it is then creating the appropriate directories and securing the appropriate, basically asking for the permissions. Well, actually, it's not asking for the permissions. It's creating keys and such, but I'm not going to go into all that. What I wanted to say was, when it gets the response back, there could be some problems with the response. And if there's problems with the response, then we need to do something about it. Right now, I'm not doing anything about it. I'm just like keeping going. This line right here just enables like some pretty debug statements. This line right here is allowing me to use type, is creating a variable called fs, which is the file system, and it's typing it appropriately so that we can get access to it here. Strictly, this isn't necessary. I could probably define this let here, but I've defined it up here. That's what I'm going to do. This is now what I'm doing here is, this is fs.state, when I initialized the web native thing, it returned an object called state, which is right here. And then I'm saying, hey, what is up? What actually happened with the initialization? There wasn't an error, but there's like several different scenarios that could play out with this particular login sequence. So now I'm going to go and figure out which one it is. So the user could cancel the authentication at the lobby level. So basically, almost like an OAuth flow, you get like redirected this thing called the Fission lobby, which, yeah, it just feels a lot like OAuth. And at that point, you can say, nope, I don't want to give this application permission to my file system in the places that it's asked for. And then it will come back here and redirect back to the app. And the app will say, hey, the auth has been canceled. And so I need to do something there. But right now I'm just console logging. In the case where you're already logged in, this is kind of what it'll look like. You'll have these auth succeeded or continuation. So what I probably want to do is like put a logged in as or something at the top right hand corner, just to like let you know that you're logged in. There's some debate within Fission about like, should we represent logging in and logging out in the same way that it's represented in like traditional Web 2 applications? Unclear. I don't have a position on that yet. But importantly, if you are logged in, then I want to grab the sorry, I'm getting pinged here. If you are logged in, I want to grab the file system, and then I can do things with the file system. That's like the key thing that this application is going to do, is read from and write to the file system. And then finally, if you're not authorized, you're not logged in, it will redirect you to the Fission lobby to try and get permissions from the appropriate permissions to the file system. Okay, so now we're down to the code that I've been writing. One, I was having problems with understanding the directory structure that gets created. So I ended up writing this little lines right here to confirm that we actually have appropriate permissions to access the public posts directory where all the public posts are going to go. And this says, yes, I do have the permissions. I was thinking that maybe I needed to create them if I didn't have access to them. I think that's probably false, that I don't have to create them. But I'm not entirely sure what is happening when I when I ask for permission to these particular things. Does it create the directories for me? I would think it would have to, but it doesn't specifically say that, at least not anywhere that I could read it. So if you're over here in auth, apps redirect, authorization, does log in or log out mean? Hold on just a second. I have a device that's pinging me, and I need to make it not ping me anymore. There we go. So silent. All right. Yeah. That's shared devices. So there's ask the user for permission to additional file system paths. So that would be, here's a bunch of things about the paths set up. Here's the thing about the file system. All right. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Each Fission user has their own WNFS, and apps store user files and data in it when granted permission. Yep. Each file system has a public tree and a private tree. The public tree is live and publicly accessible on the internet. The private tree is encrypted so that only the user can see it. Great. All information in the private tree is encrypted. Great. Decryption keys are stored. WNFS is structured and functions similarly to the Unix style file system. Apps request permissions when they initialize. The Fission auth lobby grants authorization. We know about that already. Apps request additional public, for example, a notes app the app, blah, blah, blah. There we go. That is the key sentence. WebNative does create these directories for you, for your app, if they do not already exist. Okay, well, in that case, then we don't need to do this. Let me come down here. This is a dummy check to ensure I have permissions for the appropriate file system. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to do next here is add things to the right place. And I came across, well, let's just publish and see what the heck happens. So right now, this is an event listener that I'm attaching to the post button. So when I click this button here, it should fire off this event listener. That's going to do a couple things. It's going to get the content of the title, the content of the body of that text area, and then it is going to, this is so ugly, by the way, if fs not equal undefined and fs.apppath not equal undefined. Well, one, I'm not using apppath here, so, which is what took me down this rabbit hole of like, what the heck is apppath? I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I don't need that. This is still freaking ugly. And it has something to do with the fact that because TypeScript and because this can be undefined, you have to like make sure, because TypeScript won't let you do things that are naughty. And so we have to, or like much less naughty anyway. So in order to do things with file system and prevent bugs, we have to say if file system is not equal undefined. This can't be the right pattern. for the way to do this in TypeScript. Like there's got to be a better way, but I'm actually copying this code from some other Fission TypeScript projects. So maybe it is the right way. It's just, gosh, that's ugly. And const file path, let's see. So all right, so this next line here is building up a path to the file that I want to save, which, so I'm basically saying, hey, WebNative, give me a path that is to a file, and I'm going to store it in public posts. You'll notice this is public posts, which up here, it's a little bit confusing to me that I'm asking for access to posts, and this will be public / posts, and the thing that I don't know yet is, will these private or public posts be nested under an application path, because it is creating application paths in my, yeah, so I'm a little curious to see. Oh right, we were going to change the name to Mumbler, remember? Well, I have some of those changes on master right now, so I'm going to bring those in a minute. Let's see if we can write this. So this is going to grab public posts, and then the title that I've typed in right here is going to be the title of the file with .md appended to it. Right now I'm storing as .markdown files. Eventually I'm going to store as probably JSON or something, and then like and then parse them into Markdown. We'll see. And so then this await actually adds the file, and then this await publishes the entire file system. Important distinction here. This works very much like Git, in that like this first add will add it locally, and then this fs.publish will like push the changes to the remote file system, which apparently this can fail. fs.publish fails to some degree, so I probably want to have some things we're going to do here. There we go. And great. Let's give this a try. So now I'm going to say some file, I want some test post, something, paragraph of interesting text, big chunky header, bullet point, another bulleted point. All right, let's try this. And now we're gonna hit, oh, let me bring up the console first. Live, connected, logging in, publish, attempting to save file, file saved, file system published, added to the SID ledger. What? I don't know what DNS link means. Linking up my DNSs. All right, I think we just published. So maybe now I can deduce from, this is an application called Fission Drive. And Fission Drive allows you to, like, much like Google Drive or Dropbox, allows you to inspect your WebNative IPFS wrapped file system. So one of the things that confused me was there's apps, and then there's Jess Martin, which is me, and then there's Fumbler, and there's nothing in here. And this was the thing of like, wait, is this app path? And do I get this by default? And is it public or is it private? I guess it's apps. Apps. I don't know. It's apps. Then there's our public. There's posts. Ho ho. There's also a folder called posts or a folder called public in there. That's probably my fault for like doing something stupid. But there we go. Paragraph of interesting text, big chunky header. Sweet. So we've got our stuff over here. Not going to edit that right now. Interesting. All right. Well, stage 1 of Fumbler works. Now that it works, oh, here's a funny thing. When I make a change to the TypeScript, Vite is watching the file system for changes and will instantly change that file system will instantly refresh my application. When we refresh my application, this post is no longer up here. It's like, you know, we start from the beginning. We start from here. And that means that I can't, well, I mean, oh, that's what it was. I can never get back to that post again within Fumbler. So I'm going to need some kind of edit functionality or something, or like search past posts or list past posts. Then here's the other funny thing. I could be auto-saving this file as I'm typing, which is kind of interesting. So maybe we'll have like a little auto-save like spinner or something, like as you type, it's like auto-saving locally, and then have a publish when you're ready to publish it. I don't know, I haven't thought about that dynamic much, of the fact that I can write the post locally. But the other half of what we wanted to build here is we actually want to build a little blogging engine. And right now we've got the first half of the blogging engine, which is I can write, but now we actually need a blog, which means we need to read. And my intention right now is to build this as an entirely separate application. One of the things I think would be cool is if you could like add or create posts here, like a Markdown file, create a folder file. Some other post, and then like, yeah, I just thought it'd be neat if you could like add multiple files here, or add, sorry, I thought it'd be cool if you could like add to posts from multiple different places, like Mumbler being one of the things that publishes to this, to like my file system, and then have those be able to appear in a blog format, and then maybe even like redirect things into this from other systems on the web, maybe have these posts go, like when this is updated, like have an RSS thing automatically generated, like just other ideas for how we could do this. Okay, but let's get this cleaned up and checked in. I don't think I need that code anymore. Let's see. What of any of this do I want to reorganize or keep? Yeah, it's pretty messy, but it's also pretty minimal. Like there's really not that much going on here. And I think I'd rather just get this checked in and work on the view side as fast, move to that side of things as fast as possible. So add index, add source main. Make it work. Save files. All right, we're now doing that. I need to check out main, pull, what? Oh, I've got stash. I'll stash my tool versions. I've got two different versions of things. Oh, that is my Pomodoro timer. I'm going to take a break here in just a second. Get pull. Did I get pull already? Oh, get check out main. That's right. Get pull. And then get check out auth. I'm going to merge main into this first. And there was one other change I wanted to make, which was this. And change to be Mumbler. And then I'm wondering what's going to happen here. Yeah, it's going to give a different one. Posts in my private, posts in my public. I did ask for posts in the private with the intention of like being able to make private posts that didn't appear on the public blog, but could be like reached directly. That doesn't work. Never mind. Private has a different meaning. Like hidden or something would be the right meaning for that. Anyway, right now we're only using the public directory. So interestingly, apps Jess Martin, I'm guessing, is going to have another apps. Whoa, okay, I'm confused. Apps Jess Martin, Fumbler, but no Mumbler. What? Why? I don't understand. So confusing. posts private, public, posts, public. My goodness. So strange. Oh, I can remove that? Whoa. I can like delete stuff. I'm gonna be careful with that. Huh. Okay, well, good news is under public posts, we've got our some test post that we were working on. And that should be good. Close that. Wait, why did it? Oh, there it is. Minimize, maximize. Cool. Okay. Fission Drive is a really helpful debugging tool. I like it. Okay, so this is now working. Okay, I think it's time for me to take a quick break. I still don't know what app path is and when I need to use it. I think I'm just going to go to the Fission Discord and ask a question. What is app path? When should I use it? It's in some of the examples. And anyway, I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be back momentarily. So yeah, see you in 5 minutes. All right. Welcome back. Pomodoro 2 of the stream. So now we're about to do something I have no idea how to do. Notice my 4.5-year-old's glorious alphabet that he has left us on the bottom of the board here. I'm gonna leave it here because I don't crouch down that low when I'm writing anyway. All right. Here is the dealio. We're building a decentralized application. What that means is that we have a client, blog client, and that sucker writes the internet to this giant network of things called IPFS. And then let's say we'll call it, I was going to call it stream, but we'll call it mumbles.jessmart.in. There's my blog, and it's going to have these posts, titles and stuff. And this needs to read from a specific spot on IPFS and then display these. Now, I know that, I think the right way to do this is actually have some kind of blogging, like a, we'll call it a generator just to be as general as possible here, but have some sort of a generator, static site. That's what we want. That's what it is. A static site generator that knows how to read from here and writes HTML, CSS, JavaScript here. And then this like live website does not ever read from the IPFS. Because I'm pretty sure that like reads from IPFS are going to be super slow and stuff like that. The static site generator that I'm using for my personal website right now is Gatsby, which is a JavaScript based. And I could write, there are things called, I think, sources. So I could add a source for Gatsby that knows how to speak WebNative and read the WebNative stuff. But I'm kind of curious how to read stuff from that I've written to my public directory using JavaScript before we go down the right of like, so like I kind of want to brute force this before I do it the right way. The right way. So how do I go about brute force, like grab the WebNative library and access that stuff that's public? I mean, well, let's dive in and find out. So one of the weird things to me is that you have this, yeah, it's publicly available. It should be easy to get to. And if you'll remember, in Mumbler, we had that console output that like said updating CID or something like that. This. Link to drive. Yeah, the CID. Oh, what was that notification that was blocked? Allow for this site. What was that? Huh, not sure. I wonder what this copy is. Link to file. Whoa. Interesting. Okay, so there's this thing IPNS that I could get. Does it allow me to list the directory? Ho ho, it does. Oh, weird. So this is like a running instance of IPFS. Let's go read about IPNS real quick. I don't know anything about that. In a planetary naming system. So IPFS, we know, uses content-based addressing. Content-based addressing means that it hashes the content in order to create a link or an address for where that is, where the thingy is. So presumably that is a hash of the content of this file. Interesting that we can get to it from Drive. So technically I could just like, the super brute force way to do this is no WebNative library needed, no JavaScript needed at all. I mean, no, no, explicitly don't need JavaScript. I mean, I could just iterate over the Markdown files in this directory and generate the posts from it. Interesting. I was curious about timestamps. Like, does this thing have a timestamp for when it was created? Like a normal file system would, and then can we use that for the publish date and time, or are we going to have to write that to the like some form of metadata? So that's something we're going to have to figure out soon. All right, let's keep reading about IPNS though. IPNS solves the, okay. If you were to share an IPFS address, such as this ugly, horrible thing, with someone, you would need to give that person a new link every time you update the content. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Because it's content-based addressing, and so the name is the hash. All right. Sorry. The name is the name of the file is based on the hash of the file. So whatever. We need a stable name. So the IPNS system solves this issue. A name in IPNS is the hash of a public key. It's associated with a record containing information about the hash it links to that is signed by a corresponding private key. New records can be signed and published at any time. Wait, what? Gateway. I'm just kind of scrolling through this to see if there's anything we actually want to see or use. DNS link. Interesting. I just read about this earlier today. Where was that? Was it here? Yep, it was. It was when I was reading about controlling my own DNS. Oh, that's because, okay. I'm going to leave that alone for now. That is not a pathway I want to go down or explain right now. Okay, so what it looks like is I've got this IPNS thing. Once I've written a file to IPFS, I've got the horrible address. Make a change to your file, add it to the IPFS, and update your IPNS. Won't the IPNS automatically update? How do you get a stable one? You can view the SID of the file associated with your K5 key by using the name resolve. Choose a different K5 key. First create one using keygen test and then publish. No, it wasn't super helpful. Somehow the name stays stable. And you get something like this. Well, let's go update it and see. Here's a new paragraph. I wonder if it takes a little while for that to propagate, or if I have to hit publish or something along those lines. Some test post. Here's a new paragraph. There it is. Yeah, it just takes a few seconds for it to propagate. Okay. So then, there's a lot of ways we could solve this problem then. If I can get a directory listing of the directory where all the posts are stored, then it's just a matter of getting all of the things from this directory, the markdown files, and then creating a super simple static site generated from these markdown files. All right, so how do we want to do that? Let's go read the docs real quick on Gatsby source. Let's stand in them for a while. Sit down. All right. Gatsby source file system is an example of one, but I want to write my own source. Gatsby source plugin. Creating a source plugin. Here we go. All right, make it super huge since you guys are going to be reading all along over my shoulder. A source plugin allows you to source data from remote or local locations into what Gatsby calls nodes. This tutorial uses a demo API so you can see how the data works on both the front end and the back end. The same principles apply. At a high level, a source plugin ensures that local data is synced with its source and is 100% accurate. Creates nodes with accurate meta types, blah, 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 blah. Links nodes and creates relationships between them. Lets Gatsby know when nodes are finished sourcing so it can move on to processing them. Okay, local data is synced with its source and is 100% accurate. Convert data from any source into a format that Gatsby can process. You know, it seems like overkill to create a source plugin for Gatsby when, I mean, you could definitely do that, but I mean, there might be one already that basically it might be simpler to write a separate little piece of software that grabs the markdown files from that folder and then creates them in a, sorry, that then creates a single folder that has all the markdown files in it, and then use the standard Gatsby generate a blog from a set of markdown files. Let me see. Let me see what source plugins they have. Sourcing data overview. They've got file system ones, private APIs from a database, from hosted services, from Airtable, Dynamo, Contentful. I'm just curious. Gatsby, IPFS source. Whoa! Add support for deploying Gatsby websites. Oh, deploying Gatsby websites to IPFS. That's not a source plugin. That's not grab things from IPFS. That's write this static thing to IPFS. Let me see how old this sucker is. Yeah, a couple years old. I mean, I wouldn't imagine that it would change significantly. Interesting. Yeah, it hasn't been updated to more recent things. That is a separate thing that we could do that would be interesting, but not what I was looking for. Gatsby, Markdown, IPFS, Fleek. What is Fleek? Permissionless, trustless, centralized, and centralized, blah, 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 blah. IPFS hosting, IC hosting. Store and fetch on IPFS. Deploy to IPFS or the internet computer in seconds. ENS and HNS domain management. Archive sites and storage, decentralized. So this Fleek is another wrapper around IPFS that lets you get things up there as quickly as possible. Let's see. Wonder what they're hosting. Host your site or app on IPFS. All right, not that interesting. We already have what we need. And then the other thought that's going through my mind is, do I want to just build a super simple... Gatsby is a heavy tool. It does amazing stuff, and it is fairly modularized and like broken up into different plugins and such. But it's a lot of the heavyweight solution to, I just want a simple little site that I can publish to and upload. And I'm wondering if I just want to grab, I wonder, query IPFS directory. Can you ls list links from an object? I'm wondering how we would programmatically get a list of files, file ls, here we go, from this directory. There's obviously scraping, which is a terrible idea. There's got to be a better way to do it than that. And I'm not sure. This is where me not knowing a lot. Well, this is good. This is a good thing because I'm learning more about the way that IPFS actually works here. Path to the IPFS object to list links from. I'm not sure what links means. I assume that links is like files in this directory. And that's probably the way that files are represented in IPFS. It's probably not a literal directory model, but Well, actually, that's interesting. I wonder how they represent directories. For directories, here we go. The child size is the IPFS link size. List directory contents for Unix file system objects. Deprecated. Use IPFS-LS instead. Okay. We can do that. IPFS-LS. Do I have IPFS installed here? Oh, did I never finish my PR? Oh, right, the change. Yes. Geez. Okay, and then right. Get stash pop. It should pop off tool versions. Okay. Let's go merge our PR in. Add files, or like post, publish, posts to IPFS. See if it works. Attempting to save file. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Oh. We're waiting. Is it gonna happen or not? Attempting to save the file, but it is not going. Let's refresh the page. Ruh-roh. So attempting to save file would be right after this. It's getting the contents. Oh, we need to like make sure if title is blank. Don't allow saving? Something. If body is blank, don't allow saving. We need to do something there. Maybe it's hitting this and the file system is undefined. Add a case here. All right. Some post, some new post. Something I want to say. No file system. Sure enough. Okay, so that means that something has gone wrong. Oh, you know what I bet it is? I've been mucking with some stuff. Let's restart the server. And then refresh this. Some new post. I wonder why I've lost the file system. Doggone. Interesting. Is it that I have another window open? No. That's kind of disturbing. So I didn't really change anything in here. We moved to Mumbler. but it re-asked for permissions and everything seemed to go well there. But we haven't published since we moved to Mumbler, have we? Public posts, some test post is still here. But I don't know that we have tried out. Let me try closing the, oops, sorry. I'm just wondering if there's like a, we need to request permissions somehow. Some post, something. Yeah, I think we're not getting any of these const state. It's like we're waiting but not getting anything back. Because when I'm doing this switch, which of these switches has nothing? Is there another case that it could be? It's got to be one of these. I mean, it's like it's getting another. Well, let's do this real quick. Are there any other cases that I'm not handling? Not supported. No, those are the only 4 cases. Shown and not supported. That was a incorrect Copilot completion. I don't know. I think it's probably a fact that I changed the name of the application right here. This is kind of a meaningful thing. I may need to do some kind of like log out or something. Okay, well, for now, my Pomodoro just ended. If you didn't hear that beeping, that was my Pomodoro timer. I'm going to take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and see if we can fix this bug before we push. I'm really glad I was thorough about let's test this and make sure it works before we check it in. All right, be back in a minute. All right, howdy, howdy. We're back again for the 3rd Pomodoro in this coding session where we're working on a little WebNative application called Mumbler, decentralized blogging tool. Let's jump back in here and see what's going on. So we've got where we're at right now. By the way, the brew install of IPFS completed, so maybe we can play with that in a minute. Yeah, and this is going to be interesting. But we have Mumbler running locally, and looks like we're getting some lag on my computer right now. That could be kernel task related lag due to the heat in my office. Kind of thinking it is, and sure enough, well, no, it's like it's OBS. Fair amount of kernel task lag though. OBS, you having trouble? I'm not sure what to do about that. Hopefully it doesn't introduce any stutters into the stream or anything like that, but happens sometimes. Okay, so where we're at is over here. Another post I want to publish. Some stuff I want to say. Hit this button and it's going to tell me there's no file system. And I think what's happening here is a permissions issue due to the fact that I changed the name of the application to Mumbler. And then it needs to re-request the application. Yeah, it needs to re-request. Maybe the initialize is failing. That could also be the case, that this initialize is failing and therefore state. Let's do a const or a console log here. Whoa, things are running really slow. Not good. It's going to be aggravating. Let's do a console log of state here. And sure enough, it's undefined. So that's what's happening, is that switch statement's never getting executed, or undefined, sorry, state is coming in as undefined into that switch statement. Excuse me. Sorry, I know that that is not good on your ears when you're listening to this thing. So our initialize is failing. And what I'd like to do is like have it reinitialize somehow. Quit some stuff that I'm not using, free up some memory, but I think OBS is, or Streamlabs is struggling. And if Streamlabs is struggling, there's not a lot I'm going to be able to do. Sorry, you guys. Layout editor. All right. Well, hopefully that'll stay going quickly and we won't have any problems. I'm wondering if it actually might not be a disk issue, but oh, I wonder if it's the IPFS daemon that is now taken off. Do I have HTOP on here? I do. Okay, cool. OBS is definitely using a lot of CPU. Streamlabs. So we could do 2. F3 is search, that's right. What? Trying to remember how to filter down. There we go, IPFS. Okay. So it doesn't look like IPFS is running. That's not the problem. I don't know. Looks like it's just OBS being weird and starting to take up more resources than it was earlier. Restarting the website, we've already tried. This will not help. Actually, why? Oh, I took out the console log there. Yep. So we're not getting any of these auth states, which means that this is failing. And so I'm not exactly sure how to like log out or reinitialize or ask to reinitialize. I think I came here once before. Auth.fission.codes. And geez, okay, so there was some conversation in the blog or here about in the auth section about logging out. Remove the UCAN token from apps that were granted permission with the WebNative leave function. So maybe let's do it. Let's make a WebNative leave and see what happens. I mean, how bad can it be, right? Add event listener. Let's create another. Log out. Log out. This one right at the top. Log out. And we'll say when this thing gets called, click, have an async function that does some stuff. webnative.leave, then and some problems with lag here because of OBS taking my resources. Come on now. All right. Alrighty. Oh, this needs to be log out. There we go. That should do it. Now got ourselves a log out button. It's 3000, go back. Yep. Got a message from, hey, we're logged in. So that seemed to work okay. Interesting. So we can add that log out button more probably. So a post and body something. I'm just gonna scroll this down a little bit so we can see all the things for the screenshot. Actually, alrighty, there it is. All the things. So let me take that. It's alive. So that should take care of that. Cool, cool. Delete branch. Now let's go back to we'll stash those changes, check out main, prune these branches. And yeah, we got all our code here. Pop the stash, and we now added a logout button. Okay. So we got a little sidetracked by that bug and added a log out button to account to fix it. But what we were going for is we'd like to get all of the posts, public posts directory. We'd like to get a list of these posts or grab those markdown files and then generate a simple blog website from just these things. And what I was debating before we left, or before we ran into that bug, was do I want to bring in Gatsby and have a static site generator, read those files, and then generate HTML and CSS that'll be our blog in the long run? Probably do want to do that. Gatsby is definitely a heavy solution, but it's also a really good tool and it has a lot of things like search and a lot of other things that are like solved problems in Gatsby? Or do I want to, well, there's no world in which I'm gonna like no world in which it would not be wise to live read those HTML file or those files from IPFS, although there's nothing stopping me from doing it. So the real question is, do I want to write another little blogging engine, or blog viewer that turns Markdown files into a blog? And geez, I think with it being 4:16, 4:17 on a Friday afternoon, I'm not feeling as vigorous as I might feel earlier in the week, and I think I'd rather just take this simple route, which would be figure out how to. The thing is, even there's a couple things that we haven't talked about, which is one, when the changes happen on IPFS, we're going to need to be like watching for those changes somehow and triggering a rebuild of the blog. And right now, so anyway, forget the rebuild thing for a second. Right now, we need a way of querying a directory for a file, or for the files that are in that directory in IPFS, and then grabbing each one of those files locally to the file system, and then we can iterate over those in Gatsby probably, and have that generate a blog for us. Okay, so how might we do that? Well, we were looking at the IPFS docs, and there was the opportunity to do an IPFS LS, but it wasn't super clear. IPFS LS. I'm wondering if I can find someone's. You can use the IPFS HTTP client to send requests to remote IPFS nodes, including public gateway nodes. The function below uses the HTTP client package to call the ls method, which yields an object describing each link from an IPFS directory object to the files inside. Oh, that's cool. Huh. So here is a bit of JavaScript code that will do it for us. In your terminal using the powerline shell. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's interesting. So we could use our knowledge of, it feels like a little bit of a hack, but it's actually a pretty elegant one, I think. Because what we want to say is grab the files from this specific folder. And I think it's this specific folder thing that will be the configuration option for this blogging engine. So for example, if we were to like publish this like little lightweight tool that gave people the ability to build a blog from a directory of Markdown files stored in IPFS, what we would ask for from them is, I think, the CID, content ID of the directory. Wait, won't the content ID of the directory change every single time the files in the directory change? Okay, we'll get to that in a second. This is like testing my knowledge of content-based addressing. Okay, anyway, my mind was furiously running down that rabbit hole before I was really ready for it to do that. Stay with me, brain. Okay, so if we were to give someone a little like static site generator that pulled a set of Markdown files from a directory in IPFS, what they would provide is the address or the CID of the directory that contains the Markdown files. That would be the configuration option. That'd be all they need to provide. because then we could iterate over the posts, the Markdown files in that directory, and grab them and do what we needed to do with them. So let's see if this works. IPFS ls. I'm so curious. This will be freaking cool if it worked. So now I can come in here, thank goodness for Fission Drive, and no IPFS repo found. I guess IPFS init is what I need to do. Merkeldag not found. What? Welcome to IPFS. If you're seeing this, you've successfully installed IPFS and are now interfacing with IPFS Merkeldag. What? All right, let's Google this error. Of course, it doesn't just work right away. Not found means your IPFS daemon is not running and the hash is not available locally. All right, well, we know when I saw, I did the brew install. Oh, well, let me just do brew info. Brew info IPFS. Brew service restart IPFS. Should start the service. All right, it's started. Now I can do an ls. Check that out. There's our files. That is super cool. Okay. So once I've done that, though, that just tells me what the files are. Oh, but then I've got the hashes. So at that point, I should be able to like do an IPFS grab of those particular. Interesting. To get the contents of a directory. And replace the SID. Okay, cool. We can also do this through a standard curl request. I'm curious what that will. That'll return some JSON that we can format with JQ. And then we can iterate. We'll have the hashes. So that's a little bit nicer structured data. Like that IPFS ls, that is pretty freaking cool. But what we'd probably rather do is use curl, grab the files. Yeah, what we'd probably rather do is not use curl. Use it, the API here to grab the files. And I'm assuming that, so this talks about, well, where did it say that? So your host, gateway host, here we go. Looks like dweb.link is a gateway host. Whoa, why did it drop me? That was weird. dweb.link dropped me all the way down to HTTP gateways in the docs, like redirects to here. I guess they're like emphasizing that dweb is a HTTP gateway. Gateways are provided strictly for convenience. In other words, they help tools that speak HTTP but do not speak distributed protocols to communicate. Yep. First stage of the upgrade path for the web. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Interesting. Looking at these different ways to like retrieve files and stuff like that. It's cool. Um, so if I do ipfs.io/ipfs, ha, that is the file that I wanted to grab. Interesting that the file has a file name, but where is the file name stored? I guess it's right there. A post we want, some test post. And when I'm getting, interesting. Okay, so I think the short answer to the research here is that there's lots and lots of different options for the ways that we can retrieve the files from IPFS in order to create a little blogging engine that generates the goodness that generates the static HTML and CSS from our set of Markdown files. And so we just need to pick one that we're going to do. It does actually, for me anyway, it makes the idea of writing a Gatsby source much more reasonable. Of like, maybe we actually should write a Gatsby source that knows where you can configure the gateway and the CID of the directory that you want to pull the Markdown files from. And then in that case, it's really no different from source Markdown, like the sourcing from the file system. Yeah, so you can definitely buddy. Okay, so we are now at break time from our third Pomodoro, building this little tool. And hopefully in this next and last Pomodoro, we will actually wrap up for the day, or actually wrap up and get our Markdown viewable and generating on the interwebs. So that's our goal for the end of the day. It's kind of a maybe a lot, but we'll see if we can get it done in the next 25 minutes. So 5-minute break. See you guys shortly. Alrighty, back at it, and for one last 25-minute Pomodoro on our 2-hour coding block here, where we've been working on a decentralized blogging tool called Mumbler. Lets us write our posts to IPFS and then read those posts from IPFS, generate a static HTML, CSS little blog, and then, yeah, we have this sort of like the client, the user owns their own data, the client operates on the user's data, and the user's data can be used to generate a blog. So I think I've decided to forego the Gatsby for today and try a little experiment to do it myself and see what I learn along the way. Almost certainly would be more likely to succeed if I went down the Gatsby route, because that is exactly what Gatsby does, and then I'm more or less familiar with it from my using it on my personal website. But what the heck? What's the fun in that? I'm gonna try to build a little. I think I'm gonna use a little TypeScript Vite application to generate this blog, and we'll see how it goes. So I was writing about using TypeScript for this kind of stuff in the past, and there's a boilerplate of create Vite that I want to use for this. So what we're going to do is do a yarn create. We're going to build a new application. Actually, do it here. This will be our IPFS tab, and this will be our new application tab. Yarn create Vite. Call it the Mumbler generator. Since it does have some, we're not going to do this. We're going to do this with vanilla TS. Mumbler, I'm kind of tying it to Mumbler because there's going to be some things that are specific about my Markdown format, probably some YAML front matter and that kind of thing that we'll use to create the blog with a little bit of fancy flashiness. All right, so now we have a new Vite blog here with this little main TypeScript. We'll do npm install. It's probably going to tell me, okay, cool. Not sure what version of npm I'm running. Let's go ahead and close everything related to Fumbla Mumbla. Shut down that Vite. And then we'll test the whole loop shortly here. npm -- version. What am I running here? Wait, ASDF. That's not what I meant. What am I using right now? There you go. ASDF, which Node.js. That wasn't what I meant. Huh? I'm confused. Oh, that's to get the path to like an npm thing. All right, whatever. If this runs YOLO, npm run dev. There we go. Hello, Vite. All right, close all this other stuff down. We are going to want, or was it this page open, the web3.storage docs from old Protocol Labs. Here's our Vite app. Let's go through and quickly change the things in the Vite app to make it our own. So package JSON, it's already called Mumbler generator. Great. We'll make it .1 here. In the main TypeScript, Jess's blog. Actually, we're gonna do this here. Mumble blog. Come up with some fancy names for it later. Don't need this div here. Let's go ahead and have an h1. Thanks, Copilot. That was helpful. We do want the CSS. Delete that. All it's got is, we'll make the h1 fancy. Jess's Mumble blog. And then we are now need to do a couple things here. Our TypeScript. We're gonna make this a single TypeScript file as well, like our other one, so it can be super simple. We need to fetch the Markdown files from IPFS, store the Markdown and then render them as HTML. This store the Markdown files in local storage. Don't think we actually want to do that. So do I want, so the way Vite works is on every, it is basically like, it makes the build and the publish or generate like the static assets loop exactly the same. And so when you refresh the page or when you make a change to your code or your thing, Vite immediately refreshes. So you can kind of see this happening here, Rumble logs, and then you see immediately, boom, over here on this side of the page, this refreshed. And so if we do what I just described here, then this could take a long time. And so what we probably want to do is have a script that we run. Grab the Markdown files from IPFS via a script that's run separately. And then we just iterate over those Markdown files in Vite. It's probably smarter to separate those two things than it is to have them like all bundled together. So like we should probably have a like the sad part is I want to do both. I want to do the fetch the Markdown files from IPFS, and I want to do remember the Markdown files as HTML, but I really only have time to do one or the other, not both. Given that man, I'm so tempted. So this even has the IPFS HTTP client page, package. Let's see. Oh, wow, that's encouraging. Very first thing that we're getting started. Still in alpha, lots of developments happening. APIs might change. Beware dragons. Thanks, guys. Okay, very encouraged. Or we could just say, screw it. We're gonna take. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. Const markdown file. Anybody know how to do multi-line strings in JavaScript? What's a here doc? How do you do a here doc in JavaScript? I don't know. Oh, it's here. There it is. No, that's Ruby, right? Yeah, that's Ruby. I'm like, that's exactly okay. So you just do a tick, 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 and another tick. Oh, come on now. Don't be lagging on me. Don't be lagging on me. A template literal. Yeah, I don't care. That's fine. A blog post. Some text in my blog post. Another section. A bullet point. Another bullet point. I love Copilot for writing this kind of stuff. All right, we're gonna pull that in there so we don't have an extra line. Yay. Can I wrap it like that? Is JavaScript okay with that? Who cares? All right, so we've got our Markdown file. And we're gonna say Markdown files is an array. of strings containing Markdown file and other things. Did I do that right? Am I doing the type scripting right? All right, and then Markdown files. There we go. Import. npm add marked. That's the mark generator we're going to use, Markdown generator we're going to use. Making stuff up as I go here. What? Oh, crud. I was in the wrong directory. CD, what's this thing called? Mumbler generator. npm add marked. All right, I guess I should go look at the marked docs. Got 12 minutes left. Can we get this done or not? Marked, Markdown, JavaScript. Oh, did I just do npm add and do npm install? All right, it worked. Node.js, import marked from marked. Yeah. Whatever, should work. All right, what am I missing here? Ah, okay. There we go. Ah, does my marked work in TypeScript? Things I have to ask when I'm working in TypeScript, right? Well, that seems to fix it. Const HTML. And then we want to do, actually, there was that GitHub, this, the JavaScript we had here before, or TypeScript we had here before would actually be very useful. So let's grab this and do that, and then we'll set the inner HTML const blog to HTML. Wait, what? Type string, inner HTML string, not assignable to type string. So I need to do like HTML.join. Oh, no. Wait, yeah. Now let's add a div. ID equals blog. What? What? There we go. Boom. Doing it well. Well, then the only other thing we need to do then is grab the actual Markdown files from IPFS. So one thing to note is we got like 7 minutes left. Vite is a static site generator. So while I'm in local development, I can run it and I can like add additional Markdown files to a directory called like Markdown files or something like that. And as I add those additional files, Vite will generate me new HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Once Vite is in production, it will have to be told to, one, run the file, sorry, my brain, definitely end of the day Friday. You have to be told to run the script that grabs the files from IPFS and source them locally, and then two, generate the new bundle and replace the old one in production. So how we trigger that, I still don't know. That's like an open question for the Fission team. How can I trigger changes when things happen? When it happened. All right, fetch the Markdown file from IPFS. So now we just need a script. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's make a folder. We'll call it Markdown. Or actually, better yet, we'll call it posts. Rename posts. And in that, we'll put a file and we'll call it upload post.md. And in there, let's grab this out and drop it in here. Now we need to like JavaScript read file from file system. Read local text file. Come on now. Googly, 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 googly. Wait a second. This TypeScript is going to run every single time. Yeah, Vite is really not the best solution for this. I mean, Vite can be used for like the server and all that kind of stuff, but in terms of like actually rendering the HTML, like we just want a little script to do this. Okay, let's make another file. We'll call it render.typescript. Or generate.typescript. We'll add another script here. Generate. We'll call What does Vite build do different from dev? And what does Vite preview do? And how would Vite generate work? So many questions. So many questions. All right, so no, let's not worry about that right now. how would I call this simple TypeScript little thing that I just created? So TSC source generate does what? (17.8). Local Node.js. What do we have? Local Node.js 17.8. All right, now what was I trying to do? No preset version installed for command TSC. Found byte. Oh, npm run byte. Nuts. Well, this comes down to not being familiar enough with how little JavaScript projects are set up. Well, we made it really far. One thing that's fairly obvious here is we're not going to want to regenerate the blog using TypeScript, the HTML from the Markdown files every single time. The whole point of the static site generator would be to take those Markdown files, generate the index, generate the HTML a single time, not every time the page loads. So doing it here in this main TypeScript file works, but it is definitely wrong. We're also going to want to grab the files from Markdown, from IPFS and store them locally. So that's another step that we'll want to take that I'll need to brute force my way through. Okay, so to wrap things up for today, pretty successful day. We got our little decentralized blogging app writing files to the file system, to the interplanetary file system, not just any file system. And we saw how, as we write those files using our little application, which I'll probably go try to throw up into Netlify or something like that so that it's hosted soon. After that stores them there, they're all stored in the directory. We figured out how to look inside an IPFS directory and see what's in there, and then grab, oh, that was me Pomodoro timer. That means it is time to end for the day. But yeah, we saw how to read an IPFS directory using the SID, the content ID of that directory, and get all of the things from it. And then we started on our own tiny little static site generator that would do the very bare minimum thing of build a little blog out of all these blog posts. And we'll mess with that. We'll go a little bit further, add some things like pagination and that kind of stuff to our little static site generator. I think it'll be kind of fun to maintain our own. But right now I need a couple of utility things, such as grab the things from IPFS. Yeah, so we've got some utility JavaScript, TypeScripty files to write, and I got to figure out how to set those up within the context of a JavaScript project so that I can actually run the code. And yeah, all right. This has been super fun. Thanks for hanging out. We're right at 2 hours here on a Friday afternoon. I'll post this to YouTube, and if you want to watch me build decentralized applications with Fission, thanks for hanging out.